On you loyal listeners, thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
We're back, baby.
Uh.
We are back. Feels good. I missed you, bud.
Yeah, I missed you too. It's we took a little bit of a hiatus here, and we just needed good old Marvel to bring us back.
That's how you know that I truly did miss the podcast, and I was feeling the itch, a little Rob Gronkowski start feeling like I got to get back in the game, that I still got a little something left in the
I don't
tank.
know. Have you and I ever talked about Marvel movies like on this show? Like, have we ever sat down and talked about a single Marvel movie?
No, and that's how you know that I asked if I could be on the Thor podcast with you, because let me tell you, like, you have a stable of special guests that can come on the show and talk much more eloquently than I can about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So
and actually care about it and are up to date and have some kind of stake in the game.
We'll get to that.
Okay, great.
But yeah, we got Thor: The Dark World. This is this Thor 4?
This is Thor: The Dark World was the second one. This one's Thor: Love and Thunder. But
I put up that was not a mistake. I pulled up the wrong thing.
Pretty sure that was from 2014, 2013. Yeah. It's, Oh,
it's like the same poster. Okay.
They're all the
I
same.
just clicked okay. All right. So yeah, we're not okay, we're off to a great start here.
Yep.
Oh man. Maybe there's a reason I haven't been back on the pod.
We're a little rusty.
We're going heavy into Hemsworth today. Heavy Hemsworth day. Leg day today.
Yeah.
With the Hemsworth. So we're going to go Thor: Love and Thunder, and then into the Netflix. I guess it's not original. It's based on a very short story, Spiderhead.
Yeah.
So we got a little Teller, we got some Hemsworth, we got Portman, we got Bale today. This is a kind of old school star-studded L Squared podcast. I'm excited to get into it. So,
well, let's start her off. Up first, Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gore the God Butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct.
Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm gonna try and be fair.
Okay.
And I know that this series is very important to a lot of people. Like Luke was saying, I've sort of been out of the loop. I guess before we get into it, I'm curious to hear kind of where you're at with the Marvel universe. How many? Here's another thing too. I actually, I was doing a little bit of research during the movie, but do you know how many Marvel movies we're up to now?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it's got to be close to 20.
This is the 29th Marvel film.
Wow.
Thor: Love and Thunder. So yeah, 29 films and now 6 TV series.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't really seen, besides Morbius, which I very much enjoyed. I don't really think I've seen a Marvel movie since the Avengers before Endgame. The
Infinity
one where
War?
Quicksilver dies.
That was that was Age of Ultron.
Okay, so that's kind of the last, like, in the timeline, like Quicksilver dying is
It's the
sort of
last
where I
thing
left
you.
off. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if that's consequential at all,
Well, we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
but yeah, I'm curious, like, where are you at?
So I have seen. I think I've seen basically all of them. I think I haven't seen the most recent Doctor Strange. But I when the MCU started with Iron Man, technically the Incredible Hulk, but
Mm,
whatever, the same year, it was 2008. I was in eighth grade, and so it was just like I was at the perfect age for these movies to start, where I really got into them. I loved, as we've said on this podcast, I read comics growing up back when it wasn't cool to read comics.
mm,
When it wasn't thought of as like what all the normal kids do. Um,
right.
and so it was cool to have some knowledge of the comics, and then also seeing these movies was awesome. And so growing up, I think the first Avengers movie came out the summer after my junior year of high school, and so it was just perfect to just like build up to it while you're in high school, and that's what you and your friends talk about, and then you go see these things. And the first Avengers movie was just like mind blowing at the time. um it was just like, this is so cool and whatever. And then, you know, after that, phase two was kind of always in my college years. And for a long time, it was just sort of like, that's what you would do with your college friends. It'd be an excuse to get together and go see a midnight showing, and it'd be fun, and you'd be into it
Yep.
or whatever. But then, like, I don't know, it did, like, everybody talked about it getting oversaturated. And it definitely did. When I went to see, it started to become a chore. Like, it was like every single one that was coming out, they were coming out so fast, and they just got like, they were always cookie cutter, but it seemed like they just kind of kept getting more and more cookie cutter, and it just became less
Mm,
special. Um, and so I always really gravitated toward the MCU movies that took a chance and tried something different, even if it didn't totally work. And
yeah.
there's not really a lot of examples of that. Um, but then seeing Infinity War in theaters was like, that was the first Avengers movie that I wasn't like really excited for. It really felt like, man, I have to go see that. And then I went and saw it, and I liked it, and I was like, okay, that was good. And then it was like, okay, one more, it's Endgame, and I thought, okay, this is gonna be the
One more.
last. I got one more to go,
One more.
and you're like, okay, I guess. I was like, I can do one more. And I went and saw it, and it was fun, it was good, it was huge, it was dumb, whatever. And I just kind of was like, okay, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need any more of it. And then they were already planning to kind of break up the MCU and kind of, well, a little bit, and go into some TV. COVID hit, so that ended up working out. I saw most of the Disney Plus series. They're very hit or miss. Some of them I really like, some of them suck. Again, it's kind of the same thing as I like the ones that take chances. You know, bring that to like to the modern day. When you asked me, you said you wanted to do a pod, and you wanted to do it
Right.
about Thor. And when you asked me, my thought was, oh man, that means I got to go see Thor. Like, I mean, like, I was never
Yeah.
like that before. And the first Taika Waititi Thor that came out in 2017, I love and was so hyped about. And like, he was Taika. I've been on the Taika train forever. I think he's a great director. I love him. And that was his first foray into a Marvel movie, into a big time studio movie. And I was like, you're like, is this going to work? Is he just going to get, become another normal, whatever? And that one was like, no, his like uniqueness shone through. It was a different side of Thor. It was super
Yep.
fun and like something different. And I loved it. And then that put Taika onto this whole second career that launched him into where he can kind of do what he wants. And usually he's churning out great stuff. But even this, with it being Taika coming back for it and all that, I was like, I don't know. I don't care, but
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I was at going into it. I know you said you haven't seen a Marvel movie in theaters for probably almost 10 years, but
Well,
what made you
it
want to
sounds
go
like
see this?
it sounds like you're not counting Morbius as a Morbius
I'm
Marvel
not.
legend.
No.
um, I honestly, I the last Thor movie. So that's the last one, the Taika Waititi one that you were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the closest I had come to, like, I that feeling of, I felt like I was missing out,
Mm. Yeah.
and
FOMO.
so yeah, and I never saw it, but I was like, you know what, like, let's try and do this, let's kind of see if I sort of just kind of wanted to, like, test the waters again,
Mm.
uh, to sort of see, like, okay, is this for me? And I can safely say that it's not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm sort of curious. The the conversation around Marvel is still interesting to me, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
I think it's hard not, like, this whole kind of MCU looms over the film in general, and
Mm.
it's hard to ignore, as hard as I've tried, but it's sort of this thing that we see, like, these actors, that that we really enjoy in these smaller films, things that we
Mm-hmm.
talk about a lot on here, our A24 indie, whatever. And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh my God, now they're a Marvel superhero, and you sort of see, like, this changing of the trajectory in these people's career paths. And so it's sort of just this omnipresent thing. So as much as I want to pretend like it's not there, I do feel it. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I really wanted to see Bale.
Yeah.
I was really close to seeing Doctor Strange just because it was Sam Raimi, and
Yeah. Me
I don't know.
too.
It cracks me up, like, when I read headlines like darkest Marvel movie, horror Marvel. Like, I just, like, I was, like, thinking about it. I'm like, how, like, twisted and demented could a Doctor Strange movie be? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, it's like I watched the sadness, like.
Yeah. So
But
okay. So coming
yeah.
out of
So
this one, you said you felt like you were like, this isn't for me. So are you just totally out on this movie?
yeah. So I guess if we get into it, I've, like, my most of my sort of consuming of Marvel lately, since I haven't really been seeing the movies, has been a lot through, like, memes. And
Mm.
the obviously, like, the dialogue in these movies is kind of, like, overplayed, in that it's, like, extra quippy and, lots of jokes and whatnot. But I couldn't believe, like, how man, it's this movie felt like, no offense to Taika Waititi, but it felt like it was written by Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Freeze in The Batman. There's just hardly a line of dialogue that doesn't go by without a wink, and for me, it's kind of exhausting. Um, and so, yeah, I just there was no, like, clear MacGuffin in this movie, which I always kind of look for, unless you want to count, like, Bale's sword as a MacGuffin or something to get or destroy. But I don't know. I just like there's something about it. The look of the movies, I always like kind of question myself. I'm like, is this like, do we think this is good? You know, like does this
Mm-hmm.
look good? And I don't know, like there was some things, you know, cinematography wise that I really did enjoy, like the Shadow Planet. I
Mm-hmm.
thought was
Yeah.
like really gorgeous. But I don't know, it's like that kind of like glossy sort of surface levely production that and the way these things are just pumped out, it kind
Yeah.
of leaves me feeling emotionless, you
Yeah.
know?
And, there's been a lot of headlines lately about, Marvel underpaying VFX artists and not giving them enough time and because they can, I guess, and that's really shitty when Marvel and Disney have, last I checked, all the money in the world. So it's kind of obviously extra shitty. And not good working conditions from what I've heard, which is just unfortunate. But they all end up kind of looking similarly. But this one, I walked out of like I was just kind of defeated. Like I was just tired, and I'm like, it wasn't. I didn't like it. Like it was so hard. Like this is the only Taika movie that I've ever been like. There's some that I haven't like loved, but I still appreciate, and he comes through. This was just like such. It just felt like it just felt like a victory lap. Like who gives a shit? Like he's already like Taika's already
Yeah,
like made all this great stuff, and like he was probably like contracted to come back, and they're like, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know, like we can just kind of fart something out, and like there wasn't really a clear drive. Nothing really felt like it. There were, like we always talk about, like there were so little stakes for everything, like it
yeah.
just doesn't. And here's the thing. So with Bale, right, in the trailers, I thought it could be interesting when you have like this overly colorful, like blown out 80s Thor type, like um intergalactic style against a bad guy who's all black and white and death, and like that interesting juxtaposition. Like cinematically that could
He
look cool, like
he looks he looks like the nun.
he does. Yeah.
The yellow
everybody
eyes,
kept
like
everybody kept saying he was Zack Snyder's Uncle Fester, which was hilarious. And like, and I thought Bale was great. I thought Bale was one of the best
I
parts of
love
this
Bale.
movie. I was
I
like,
love
he's
Bale.
going for it, and he's
I
like,
love Bale.
he's really doing it, and I loved him for that. Like I was like, this is great. Like he's hamming it up. He's doing it perfectly, especially for like Bale. Like there was a time where I thought you'd never see Christian Bale in one of these fucking movies, and he did a great job. But
I just
there's so many things that, like, I'm gonna go off on a rant, guys. So just be
yeah,
ready
yeah.
for that.
Yep. We need to tail back to Bale at some point
Yeah,
because
we will.
it's important.
So the thing that, like, above everything else I could get into, one thing that, like, that drives me crazy is just the lack of continuity for certain things, or like just not. So Natalie Portman's character, right? There's just little
Okay.
things that just drive me nuts. Like she has cancer, and she's in chemotherapy, and she looks over with another guy in chemotherapy. She's an astrophysicist, and he's reading her book on
With
astrophysicists, just randomly sitting next to her.
with what little time he might have left, he's like,
Yeah,
well, let me learn
like
some
this is
astrophysics.
what's gonna pass the time. And he didn't know anything about it, and she just happened to
Yeah.
look like, huh, that's my book.
Just learning a subject.
Yeah, and I'm like, that okay.
Doc says I have 6 months to live.
I know, like that's what you're gonna do. Like that's so stupid. And it was like just to make an Interstellar joke, which is whatever, but it's so like lazy. Well,
I
then
also hated that I got out my phone in the middle of the theater and I wrote down, I can't believe she did the paper punch thing.
yeah, that it was all just for that. It was literally just
Yeah.
like, hey, have you seen Interstellar? Okay, haha. But so then she goes to her lab, and she's thinking like, man, I have cancer. This sucks. And she looks on her table, and it has her book, and then it has two Norse mythology books on top of it. And she looks and she goes, huh. And I'm like, what do you mean, huh? You put those there. This is your lab. And then she opens the book up and she's like, huh, Mjolnir. Oh, Thor's magical hammer. Huh. Like, what? You know it's Mjolnir. You've been in these other movies. And then she's like, oh, okay. Gives you extra strength and health. And like, you've had injury. The man who wields that hammer has been inside you. You've been intimate with him in a long term. You know this. What are you reading? Like, what are you like? Oh, okay. And then just instantly cut to, she's in Asgard. She's in New Asgard instantly. I was like, how do you know? How do you know to go there? Like, we just show up and you're just like, okay, I'm here. And then what? Then the hammer just reforms and gives it to her. And now she's another Thor. Like that's never, what is that? Like, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
It's the most like obvious answer like ever, you know? It's like, what do you associate Thor with?
Hammer.
His hammer. And it's like, what could be the cure to my cancer? You know, and it's just like Thor's hammer.
But let's try it. A woman of science says, like, okay, maybe if I pick up the hammer, it'll work for me.
But that's the solution. It's literally just like this is like we go all the way back to the Snyder cut where it's like the first most obvious solution just works the first time. It's like, oh, yeah. Well, but what if I pick up the hammer? Oh, I'm Thor now.
Like, this is great. Yeah. I
have all the fighting ability. Like, yeah, I don't have to practice throwing it.
Yeah,
it works perfect.
It works.
Time.
I'm great.
Yep.
The only thing she struggled with were catchphrases, and that's so dumb. Well, then later in the movie, it's toward the end, and he has a whole army of kids that he went to save, right? And that's kind of the whole thing. And then he just takes his newer hammer, and he just says, "Okay, give these kids for a limited time only all of Thor's power." And then he just does. And then now we just have an army of Thors to fight this. Like, okay, if you could do that, why wouldn't you have done that in any other movie? That would have saved you in almost every other movie. Like, oh, I'll just create an army of Thors for a little bit. Like, yeah, don't you see that if you could do that here, it ruins the other movies? Because like, well, then it's so dumb that they didn't do that. And it's just like, why even put that in there? Like, okay, I'm sure there was a mandate from Marvel saying, hey, we want to get the kids more involved. Just do it where the kids help save the day and the kids are the ones fighting, because then the kids are going to want to buy these toys and they're going to be even more involved. And then the end, to just have Korg be like, some call her love and him thunder. Boom. It was just like above everything else, above that there was no drive, that I didn't feel any urgency, that I didn't care if the gods died, because who gives a shit? Like above all that, that's the shit that just drives me nuts. And it's just such a simple thing. Like, just, yeah, because this was just clearly like, oh, whatever, who gives a shit? Like, we're just putting it out. The worst part about this was being in the fucking dingy ass Cinemark, sitting around all those fucking mouth breathing fans. And I'm sorry to do this, but Marvel fans are the worst. I didn't remember how much I hated sitting there in a full theater at this stupid place that is actively giving me COVID, I'm sure. And everyone around me is just I just couldn't. I was like, what? I've done my time. Okay. I just don't want to do this anymore. Please. I just don't want to. With coming out of the movie being like, wow, that sucked. And then everybody in there being like, what do you think? 8 out of 10? Oh, well, 7 out of 10? No, it's got to be 8, dude. That was so funny. And like, dude, that's one of the best Marvel movies I've ever seen. And just the whole time just being like, yeah, that was pretty dark. Like, that might be the darkest a Marvel movie's ever got. Like, I can't. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm there. I gotta cut myself off.
Oh man, I love it. I didn't think I was going to get such a visceral reaction out of you, but I do think this is why we agree quite a bit on film, and we have you have good film taste. And I was fully ready to come on here and feel like, I was like, I gotta tote the line.
No.
Okay. You know what? Let's try and talk this through. Let's try and so some notes that I took.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't care. I just opened up my phone. I think anytime you're at Century Theater, like you're just kind of allowed to text and answer calls. And
it's all part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just part of the experience. So to some of your points here, and that was a beautiful soliloquy. I feel like these series, and this is where it's hard because I wish like I don't have the credibility. I don't know what's happened on the last one. And I guess let's start there. Okay. I already said before, this is the 29th Marvel film. Okay. Yeah. And so a lot that's happened. And like you said, you're, a longtime comic book fan, knowledgeable up on the, majority of things, starting to feel like a chore for you. At this point, I think I counted 3 different recaps in this movie. Like 3 separate times where and this is like not a long movie, thankfully. It's like, I think it's just under 2 hours, but 3 separate recaps of things that have been done, or like we get like the love montage between Portman and Hemsworth, which I kind of assume was off screen.
Correct.
Like that was new information. We get what happened last time, and then we get the silly play. Like I'm assuming, and here's my point. So there's a big emphasis, and I understand that's from Feige and production, that like you have to tell people what happened last time. Does anyone care? Is this helpful for any person in the movie? Because you're either a Marvel completionist, you've seen all of them, you're in the bag for Marvel. B, you see most of them, you like movies, yada yada. Or C, you're like me, you're just jumping in for one, and you could not care less about what happened in the last one. And I don't think it really matters.
It doesn't.
I was like sitting there and I'm like, there's really not a lot that I don't get. And it's kind of flabbergasting that they go through all of this trouble to make sure that nobody's lost, that everyone knows what's happening, when ironically, I think that it hurts their business model. Like, what if, for instance, like Thor: Love and Thunder was a really good movie, and it had a lot of tie-ins with the stuff that had happened before, and it didn't tell you anything about that. What would that do to a viewer? That would inspire a viewer to go back and watch the other movies. Yeah. But like all that curiosity is gone. I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't need to watch the other ones, and it doesn't help that I didn't like the movie, but like, what if I did like it? I'd be like, oh, maybe I should go back and check out Ragnarok. Like, it feels like it's self-defeating at some point. So I don't understand it. Is that just like, along with the extra credit scenes, which I never stay for, and I don't care. You'll have to. I don't either. I just kind of hope you did, so I could laugh at like what thing we're gonna see, in 7 years. Like, okay, like
it just is. It's all lost. It's luster, and I don't know who they're for either. It's just they just don't respect the audience at all, and the audience is fine with that for some reason. Like the audience is just like, like I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to blame it on the old TikTok, but it's just like it's been like that forever. But it's just such hand holding, and it teaches people to be not good audience members too. Like the more you just hold their hand and overly explain stuff to them, the less they have to be an active participant in the film, And it's just, I don't know. I just wish, here's what I wish Marvel would do. I wish they would just take a break. I know they won't, but like just go away for 10 years or something. Just take a little bit of a break and then freaking new 52 it or whatever, and come back after like 10 years or something, after people have cleansed their palate and they've kind of like gone, okay, like, you know what, like I'd be ready to do something again, like kind of come back to something different. I thought that's kind of what they were going to do with the TV series. I thought that they were like, well, we'll just kind of focus on the Disney Plus stuff for now, and that'll be kind of different. It won't be as much of the same thing. It'll be series and it'll be one-off things, and we can just kind of do that for a while and then maybe get back to this. But they're kind of doing both, and it just, there isn't a clear direction anymore, because like Thanos is what everyone is building up toward. All the Infinity Stones were for the Infinity Gauntlet, and it finally like happened, and all that's done. And then we keep going like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Like now it's like, well, we beat the game, and now you just keep going, because now it's like, well, who cares about all this other shit? Like there is no end game anymore. Like we're all just going around, and it'd be different if like go ahead.
I was gonna ask you this question, so I had a couple questions for you too, and this is sort of like, me trying to sort of pick your brain, since you've been more invested in me than this, but in your opinion, do you think, and we've kind of had some time now since Endgame, do you think that Endgame, ultimately sort of ruined the Marvel universe?
Thoughts? I think it did and it didn't. Like it did in the sense that there's no way to come back from that really. And so it was sort of like, it was its namesake, like it is the end game. And so after that, it's sort of like, well, what do you do? Like, and I actually really liked, I think I liked Infinity War. I don't know if I want to say more, because they're both actually really good for how much stuff they had to cram in there, and for all the plates they were spinning. It was pretty impressive they were able to pull it off. But Infinity War was fun because they lost. Because in Infinity War, Thanos won, and that was it. And it was like, wow, that was cool. Yeah. Even though you knew like the end game's coming out in a year and they're going to beat him then, it was like you got to see all these people die, actually fade away. And like, it was like, holy shit, Thanos won. And you knew they were going to come back and do it. But it was like, damn, that's like, that was ballsy to do. But yeah, I mean, Endgame did essentially end it, because now what do you do? Where do you go? Like that's when you should have rebooted it. Either do New 52 style, or just do like one-offs, kind of like in the comics, like that. I don't know. Just, I think that would be more interesting. Kind of like what they did with the Batman earlier this year. Like just do another one. Like you don't have to do the same story, but you can just do like little one-offs, do like Elseworld stuff, and just sort of pepper them in. And you don't need to keep continuing on, this thing that we're all kind of tired of,
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to me, because like as a, sort of casual observer, it kind of feels like, and I'm going to make like a basketball analogy here, but in college basketball, like the one and done, basically like you get a guy on campus and he's there for 6 months. After March, he plays in the tournament, and then he's in the draft. Right. Yeah. And it's like the best players in college basketball, these guys that are going in the lottery, no matter what, they're basically, if they play for your school,
Mm-hmm.
Like previously, like before, like, back in the day, it was like, holy crap, this is the best basketball player in the country and he plays for my favorite school. He's going to be here at least 3 years, and
Yeah.
you have time to like kind of grow and like really like develop like a fandom. But now it's sort of just like, it's just these guys are just being put in the microwave and they're in and out like before you know
So
it,
you're
right?
basically just
Especially,
like cheering for recruiting and that's it.
yeah, it's you sort of you it's this crazy thing where it's like, you know like North Carolina played Kentucky a couple of years ago, and it was this crazy double overtime game. And there was a bunch of these dudes that went in the lottery, like all these guys that were going on to the NBA. And I was just like sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, oh my God, like, wouldn't it be cool if like these exact two teams played each other again? It was such
Yeah.
an amazing game. Like, I'd love to just see this again. But it's like, I knew that wouldn't happen. Like, Kentucky's going to have 5 new guys next year,
Yeah.
all freshmen, and then those guys are going to be gone. And so this long thing is leading up to the conversation I want to have with Christian Bale,
Okay.
because I love Christian Bale.
Well
I love,
documented.
yes, and I love how serious he is about film. Well
Mm-hmm.
documented. I don't think any of it's staged. Like, his freakouts on set are legendary. Um, he's made transformations up and down, and he's one of the real ones, by
Yeah.
all accounts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I knew that I didn't even see a trailer for this. I just saw like Christian Bale. He's playing a character called the God Killer, and I was like, that's super metal. Like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like, Christian Bale killing God. Like, that should be like a no-brainer, hands down. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's this thing where I felt bad for him, cuz like, he's going for it. He's trying something, like you said, and he's so good in this movie, and everyone else is just mailing it in.
Yeah.
This is one of the worst Natalie Portman performances I've ever seen. Um,
Yeah.
Hemsworth just sort of he just plays Hemsworth, right? Unless he has his, his smart guy glasses on, and then he's
Yeah.
playing smart guy Hemsworth. But um, it's so sad, because like, this is a one and done. Christian Bale is done. Like, spoiler alert,
Yeah.
Christian Bale's character dies at the end, and it's like, okay, so he's just out of the series now. And it could always come back, comic book movies, yada yada. Don't get me started with that. But it feels like such a waste, right? Like, if this
Yeah.
is Christian Bale's and granted, I don't think we ever would have guessed that he would be in a Marvel movie, but if this is it, it's just like what? Why couldn't we watch this for the next 3, 4 Thor movies?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have a close battle? It's like the bad guy wins a little bit, the good guy wins a little bit, but there's still some meat left on the bone. But no,
Yeah.
everything has to be wrapped up, and we need a new villain for the stinger at the end, or else like, it's not a Marvel movie. And it feels like I'm having it just crammed down my throat, when I'd much rather just see like the evolution of these characters together. They barely know each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, why does Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, besides the fact it's like, okay, well, they're gods, so they don't want to be killed by the God Killer, okay, but
Yeah.
like, why can't there be any like, like, the Joker blows up a hospital,
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
Yeah. Like yeah, in a different scene where there's prisoners on one boat and innocents on the other, and they're like, you have the power, and the prisoner takes the detonator away and just says, hey, whatever, like, and it's just like, well, just accepting that, like, that's deep shit, that's really dark. And I know that's obviously DC, but it's like, well, why not do that here? Like, and it's because Feige always wants the heroes to shine. But to your point, like, why not have a great villain that's fun? Like, Loki was the only one that was the villain in the first movie, and he became a fan favorite. He lived at the end. And then it's been a lot of back and forth, but they kind of have turned him into an anti-hero, which is whatever. Listen to the Morbius pod if you want to hear my thoughts on villains being tried to be turned into like anti-heroes, but nowadays anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's a great point, and I just wish like if there just weren't any stakes, and it sucks. And if there were just something that mattered here, it would have really just been that much better. Like Odin dies in Ragnarok. That was the scene that the actors were representing. And it was a really good scene. Like it was emotional, it was heartfelt. You felt for him because Odin like has been there since the beginning, and it is his dad, and he's there with Loki, and it's like it was sad, and you're like shit, and he's just kind of like he just sort of fades away, and you're like, man. And it was an emotional moment. Odin is a god, so it's like, well, you can't really have that in here, but I don't know. They weren't even that scared of it. And even if they were like, and then it's like, he's been killing gods for however long he's had the sword. And then now he's just going to go to the center of the thing to kill all of them at once. Like, why wouldn't he have done that before? And if anybody can just get whatever wish they want when they get there, it took him like 5 days to travel there. Why didn't anyone else do that if they all knew about it? Like all that shit is so dumb. It's just
so this kind of goes along with another like sort of thought I had, and like here's where I can try and be constructive with this, but I just over and over and over and over again with these movies, it feels like we're skipping steps in order to fulfill some sort of like checklist of like, well, this has to happen because X is happening in the next movie, right? So we got to keep it moving along. And it's this happens with two different characters in the movie. One, Christian Bale, Gore, the God Killer, he picks up the sword and he can immediately kill gods.
Yep.
Okay. Like, all right. Natalie Portman, she goes from having cancer to she picks up the hammer and she is immediately Thor. Like, we're skipping the step. One of my favorite tropes in movies, and I will never say no to it, and there's never been a bad one, training montage. Training montage. But I could have done 30 minutes of both of them just getting better at being Thor. Like, here's an idea. Maybe neither of them have to be good at like anything yet in this movie, right? It's called character development, but it's just we're forced into like conflict. The whole
crux of the conflict in Empire Strikes Back is that Luke is training and everybody tells him you can't go fight Vader. You're not ready. You've only been training for like a few weeks. Like there's no way you can beat him. And then he defies training, and guess what? He gets his ass kicked because obviously he's not ready. Because why that and then it makes the stakes are way more raised when they meet each other again in the next one after he's been training even more.
It kills me. It just feels like it's sucking the life out of these films, like the agenda. And now that we're past, the snap, we're past Endgame. It doesn't work as well to just like keep the train rolling, like as fast as possible down the tracks, because like nobody knows the destination anymore. And I don't know that like we're super excited about it either. Right. Yeah. And so it's so, again, it feels like really counterintuitive. It feels like, okay, so we're sort of in the absence of a big bad. why why are we rushing these things? Why can't we just string it out? Like,
So
again,
here's something that I've always wanted for a Thor movie that I've never gotten and that we'll never get. But what I would have loved to have for this movie.
I hurt someone today.
Exactly. Resurrect Johnny Cash. That's what I was saying the whole time too. Logan is so good. Logan is
such a good movie.
We could talk about that later, but it's so good. But what I wanted, like, here's a pitch for you. Okay, Natalie Portman has cancer. Okay, and Thor feels bad because they're broken up or whatever, right? And so let's just say she dies in the beginning from cancer, and he hears about it and he feels bad. There is a plot point in the Thor comics where Thor goes to the underworld to try and fight death, to get someone back from the underworld who's died. Like,
hell yeah.
How metal is that? Like, go, like, have
Hell
Thor try, like, love and thunder. Okay, he wants to get this love back, so he goes down to fight death. And Christian Bale you could have just called that character Death and hadn't been in the underworld. But the more he, tries to find this place, and he can't, he has to go through all these things to get there, whatever. I mean, we got to pad the runtime a little bit. But then once he gets there, he finds her, but essentially death doesn't work like that. You can't just punch him in the face or beat him in the head with a hammer and then you get to walk home. Like, essentially it's always a soul for a soul. So then Thor has to decide if he wants to give up his own life to bring her back. Right?
Did you just hear just the do, just the heavy metal?
I know.
Ripping. Like,
yeah.
Gosh.
I mean, how great would that be? There you go. Like, I mean, instantly those are real stakes, because then it's like
Thor goes to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, did you see The Northman? Have we talked about that yet?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh, why haven't we talked about The Northman? I love The Northman. When it's, the gates of hell and it's and they're in the volcano and you're like, oh fuck yeah, like, do that. There you go.
Just butt ass naked. Just
yeah, exactly. You know what?
Not even giving a shit. Just I need an honorable death.
Yeah. There you go. The Northman was a much better Thor movie than this. Go watch The Northman. I mean, it was that. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's easy. Those are real stakes. Like, you're bringing Jane Foster back into it. Thor can still be fun and quirky, and maybe like he's already with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe he ask them to help him find the underworld or get there on their fucking ship. I don't know. They can still have fun, wacky stuff along there, but then there's real stakes, because then it's like, does Thor give up his life? And then you as an audience member think, man, maybe like subconsciously you're like, man, maybe Chris Hemsworth is going to die. Maybe he is going to give up his life because maybe he's sick of training for 8 hours a day, lifting and only eating, boiled chicken breasts to get that big for years on end. Like, maybe he wants to give that up. So maybe this is his way out, like, you're subconsciously thinking that. So then as an audience member, you think, man, maybe he could actually die here. Like, there you go. Those are real stakes. I mean,
and here's the thing. I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
As well as the audience. It doesn't matter if Chris Hemsworth dies. It doesn't. Because you know what? The next Thor will be the best Thor ever.
Yeah.
Whoever plays him will automatically become better than the last. Like, think about Spider-Man. Okay. We've had 4 Spider-Mans, if you count the animated, like in the last, 15 years. And every single one, granted, like, everyone, if you grew up watching a certain Spider-Man, that's your favorite, but everyone is more excited about the next Spider-Man. The guy after Tom Holland is going to be even better. I promise you.
Yep.
I promise you. and people are there. People are not going to stop coming to the theaters because there's a new Spider-Man, because there's a new Thor, because there's a new Iron Man, because there's a new Batman. Like,
Yeah.
So just what at some point you can kill one of these heroes, right? And then just bring them back.
Yep.
You know? And it's fine.
And it's
you
fine.
know? It's totally fine. We just reboot it, you know? Like,
everybody's on board.
Why not take this one chance? You know, it's like these people, they're only going to make a certain amount of movies. Hemsworth might not make a fifth Thor movie, so why not kill him here? You know?
Yeah, why not? I mean, there you go. And then we just move on. It's like when it's just a new run of a comic book, like there you go. It's just a new thing. There's different artists. It's a different kind of story, but similar, you know, and you're just like a different person putting on the cape and cowl, and there you go. Yeah. So, all right. I think we fixed it.
Wow. We spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, we did.
We're both passionate. Felt good though.
Yeah, we were going to talk about Spiderhead too. Do we have time? We might as well. We can just fart this one out. Let's do it. We owe it. We owe it to the loyal listeners. We haven't been around in a while. You're getting a hefty one. Okay, so
I've seen Spiderhead twice.
What? How? Okay, Spiderhead. Chris Hemsworth. In the near future, convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects to shorten their sentence. One such subject for a new drug capable of generating feelings of love begins questioning the reality of his emotions. Chris Hemsworth, Miles Teller, Netflix,
baby. I love me some overpaid, overproduced, overcasted Netflix hot garb. Yeah. It is one of my favorite genres. And Joseph Kosinski, Kofinski, incredible run here. Maverick into Spiderhead. So yeah, Spiderhead starring the aforementioned Hemsworth. We got Teller in the mix again. And this movie makes no sense whatsoever. It involves Miles Teller, who's a convict but lives at a nice prison. But they do weird experiments to him. And Hemsworth is the doctor because, well, he's like kind of everything because there's only 2 employees at this jail.
Yeah. So he's camp counselor. That's basically it. Yeah. And that end scene. So this must have been a movie that they had made a while ago, that they were kind of like, I think they were sitting on it because Miles Teller for a bit there a few years ago was like getting close to being canceled. I don't know if you remember that. People were kind of like out on him. And I think that they were probably just sort of like, this movie sucks anyway. Maybe we should like not put this out. Well, then all of a sudden he does Top Gun Maverick, and that blows the lid off everything. And then they're like, oh, Miles Teller's in that movie? Yep, put it right up there. Like, you can tell just by Chris Hemsworth's physique in this to Love and Thunder. Like, he's way bigger in Love and Thunder. So, I mean, there alone, it must have been a couple of years, I would guess. But so they must have just been like, oh, yeah, let's throw that up there. Let's go, you know? And it's not good.
Yeah, you but are you good to drive?
Yeah, but are you cool to drive? Ice cold.
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
You deserve to kill your friends.
Yeah, if you say that shit.
And we deserve to die.
And
if your friend ever tells you if you're asking if he's okay to drive after a few drinks and he says ice cold,
Ice cold.
do not get in that car.
Yeah, I would avoid that at all costs and take the keys away from him. Yeah.
This has some good bad quality because like some of the lines in this are so funny.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so essentially the kind of hook of this, and this is like a weird you mentioned the timing. I also thought just the the age of the act, doesn't this feel like a YA movie?
Oh,
to you?
Yeah, totally.
But it's like everyone is everyone's like 15 years older than they should be, you know?
Yeah.
It feels like everyone should be like 16 here, and you know, like
it's just such a tired premise. Like it's so like you for the first time ever heard about Philip K. Dick and you heard the premise of one of his short stories and you were like, whoa, like are emotions really just like chemicals that get released in our brains? Like what if we like controlled the chemicals that were put in there? Like whoa, are those like real emotions or just like the chemical? Like, whoa.
Yeah, so to explain a little bit more for the listeners, if you haven't seen Spider-Head yet,
they've seen it.
No, they've seen it. Yeah. Essentially, the trade for being able to like, you know, get good food and like just kind of chill in your Lululemon sweatpants all day instead of going to like real jail is that you're given these chemical tests that sort of make you feel an emotion. Yep. And there are these weird like little packs in your back, which I didn't understand. Like, I mean, I'm not even gonna like try and get into like the chemicals and the biology, but I feel like a brain drug would be like better if it, you know, was connected to your head and your brain. Like there's like such thing as the blood-brain barrier, which, you know, makes it hard for stuff to get, you know, in there. But I was like, okay, well, that's fine. But
so you're saying that Doc Ock's tentacles from Spider-Man 2 is more realistic than these?
Well, yeah, because that's like that's like it's spinal cord, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, we could get into the discussion. Like, do you think any of these drugs, and they all have these really funny names here? Want me to read them off for you?
I texted you to let the loyal listeners in. I said, I was like, if I have to hear Darkenflox or Verbenflus one more fucking time.
Oh man.
Yeah, give us a rundown.
So we have Love Actin, which
I wonder what that one is.
It's like Viagra for your brain, I guess.
Yeah.
You have Love Actin, which makes you love somebody. Verbulence, which I guess just, I don't know, turns you into like Jason Bourne. And we'll get into like some of the plot details, but I don't understand Verbulence at all. Darkenflox, which I mean makes you want to kill yourself. It's a good drug. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Laphadil, which it was just seemed like weed to me. Makes everything funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I think we already have that one. Phobica, another, you know, like what's the use for this one? Makes you fear anything. Tell me, would you take any of these?
I mean, just like recreationally idea? Or to reduce my prison sentence?
Are any of these a good idea?
No, because we have real life versions of the drugs that are better and more stable that you can get and do almost the same thing, but you can still have control over yourself while you feel those things. So I would say no, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's like even like obviously like the Darken Flocks and like Phobica, like here's the schizophrenic drug. Like obviously those ones are bad, but even like Love Acton, like you talked about like this like kind of sophomoric, you know, sensibilities. Like would there ever be like a situation where you just Love Acton like I don't even like how do you use it without like making it really not I don't even know like how to frame it,
Like
you know?
without it feeling like rape.
Well, yeah, it's like year 20 of your marriage, you know, it's like, oh, we got the Love Acton,
Oh
you
my
know,
god,
it's
I do it
20
again.
minutes of, you know, wow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like,
um,
what is that really for? Yeah, it's no. I mean, no, none of it was like cool. And it was weird too, because they were like, all right, you got to give us audio cues as to what you're feeling. You know, you have to say acknowledge, and then you have to say, like, okay, tell me. And they're like what I don't the you're the scientist here between the two of us. Are there any
right.
issues are there any breaks in the scientific process with these experiments?
Well, it seems like Hemsworth is both like a chemist and a physician and an engineer and a psychologist. Um, like because like there it seems like it's just him and the other guy that work there, I guess,
Yep.
you know. And I'm like thinking of like, okay, if you were like you're going to like get this product off the ground, you need to like a be able to understand like the chemistry, b be able to make like this packet that fits into your back, you know, like
Hmm.
so engineering. So c like you have to be like a doctor to know like how to implant this. And then like
Yeah.
D, you're like you're doing all this like armchair. Well, I guess maybe D was the only thing that he wasn't a psychologist because he had to have Miles Teller use his own drug to test the efficacy of another experimental drug. Like,
Yeah. Oh, the one of them
you
was
know,
the truth. Yeah, one of them was the truth serum. Like
well, that
he
was the
could
obedient OBDX. That was the secret like
OBDX.
drug that
Yeah,
they
that was
always
like
got.
the yeah.
Yeah. Again, like what is the use for OBDX besides like imprisonment? Yeah.
Yeah. And like, are we ready to have the discussion that there is no free will
Yeah.
anyway? It's so like just doing that is sort of like I don't know what that would do.
My boss prescribed me the OBDX drug.
OBDX today.
I don't know.
Hmm. I wonder what that what that could mean. I'm not great at subtext. Yeah, it's just kind of really boring and dumb. I did a little bit of research on one specific thing because I
Mm,
said that in my head I thought, so this prison which is called Spiderhead, I think, or his office is called Spiderhead or for some reason. But it's like this prison place is like located not really on an island, but off. You have to cross water in a boat to get there, whatever. Um, and every time they go to do a test, they take out this really, really nice boat, and they have these huge shots of this boat going across the water. And they
yep.
go and they come back, and there's a couple shots of it. And I thought, was this movie just made for did they spend their budget on the speedboat, or did they just like have an in with like, hey, we can get this cool speedboat, let's just fart out a movie around it so we can use it a couple times.
Wow.
And I
This is like actually one of your best best takes. Um, I'm loving this right now.
so
Keep going. That the
I
movie was built around the
was
speedboat because
built
I
around the
did
speedboat.
notice. I noticed the speedboat last night when I watched it again because I'd watched it maybe 3 nights ago and I couldn't remember how it ended. Like
Yeah.
I like it. I couldn't think of what was resolved. But yes, keep going. I love this.
So I
Love
looked
your
it up,
going.
and because to explain it to you guys, it's like it is a speedboat. It's a very long speedboat, and it's all made out of wood, which is
Yes.
very rare. And so it's like, it
I've
has to
seen some of
be,
these. These are expensive.
yes. So it's a custom Riva speedboat. Its name is Carlo. Carlo the speedboat was designed and manufactured by Italian boat maker Carlo Riva. It was built in 2002 and inspired by Italian design of the 60s and 70s. It was entirely manufactured from one tree. The
Yeah.
speedboat was a hand-built, one-of-a-kind
It was a
speedboat.
one of one.
And the director said he thinks it's worth about $500,000. And the owner very kindly lent it to us in Australia, is what he claims.
Wow.
But I just think he very kindly lent it to them. So I think that they were having talks, and then this Italian guy was like, hey, you could, if you guys want to use it, go for it. Like, here are the keys. And they were like, what?
This is 100% like Teller came over for a weekend and we fucking chopped it up. Teller came over to the house and we had a time.
Yep.
We were out on the boat drinking Mai Tais.
And Teller just like pitches this movie on the spot and is like, we gotta do it. I'm telling you, I think that sticks. I think that this movie was made around that, because
I love this.
It's just
like, even the fact that it says it was Lent, that means that there was like some other non-monetary way to get the boat. You know, this is
because, or is he just
great.
gonna lend somebody out the keys just because they're gonna put it in a movie? Like, you're just
it's an excessive amount of boat scenes for a prison movie.
It has nothing to do with the boat. The prison does not need to be on water. They don't need to be on a pier.
Most prison movies are pretty much just in prison.
And that's it. Yeah. Usually you don't go for a ride on the boat just at one night, you know? Like, it really...
he's got free Fridays, and he needs to make a phone call, and it's like a 45-minute ride via the boat to go up to this one peak where we have cell service at this state-of-the-art prison / research / medical facility. Did I get all that?
Yeah, I think that's what happened here. I think it's pretty evident. And I just wanted to admit it. You know, this movie was like, I kept thinking, because we've talked about a bunch. Netflix has recently come out and said that, you know, Netflix hasn't been doing as well now that the rest of streaming has kind of started to catch up and take some of their business away, and that they can't just keep getting away with it. And, you know, they've said that, okay, we're no longer going. They knew. And like, they're like, okay,
we let that slip.
we can't go one episode without referencing that. They were basically like, our business model is no longer going to be, we're just going to throw all the money in the world at one of these projects at somebody just to make quickly, and we're just going to fart it out and put it up there, and we're just buying shit up, and we're forking out all this change just to attach big names to these little easily producible movies that we can just like throw all this money at, and whatever, who cares? And it's like a tax write-off. Because when the infamous really old episode of L Squared about Netflix originals was for Hold the Dark. Remember that movie from the director of Blue Ruin and Green Room? Yeah, exactly. So it was coming out on Netflix, and it was one of their big development deals. It was $150 million budget at the time, was really big. And we were like, why is the director of Green Room, why does he need $150 million to make a movie that's going to be like a small indie that takes place in a small town in Alaska, you know? And we were just, we sat down and we were trying to figure out the numbers and we couldn't. And I gotta say, those like that episode's got to be really hard to listen to, guys. So but still go check it out, because we were sitting there like, how do they make money off that? Like, and you said it's all just for IP, just so that they own the IP. And if it takes off like Stranger Things, and they make all the money in the world. But I mean, that's just been their model forever, is like, let's just throw all this money to get these big stars attached to these tiny things that we can make quickly, just so that we have all these originals for people to watch. We don't care if it's good. We don't really care about anything. We just want to overly produce and put it out. And when I'm watching this, I mean, obviously that's like what happened with this. Like, nobody gives a shit about this movie, at least of all Miles Teller and Chris Hemsworth. Like, why would they care about this? I'm sure it was just a few days shoot. It looked pretty easy. Most of it was boat rides. I'm sure they got seasick because I'm sure they were on the boat all the time. But you know, when I'm watching this movie in particular, Spiderhead, I was like, this, like, if you want a really good version of this that is on Netflix, that's a Netflix original technically, watch Maniac. Maniac is so good. I love Maniac. It's an 8-episode miniseries with Jonah Hill and Emma Stone. They're part of this testing program with pharmaceuticals, and it gets weird and trippy. But that's like Corey Fukunaga helming that, and it's great. And it is like a little bit big and bloated, but it was great, and it had 8 episodes to flesh it out. And this was just lazy and slapped together and didn't have a central point to anything. Like, if you want to say, like, you know, sci-fi has these big, you know, make you think deeper about society and comments on that. Like, so the comments are, you know, are what we feel really feelings, or like, are they just chemicals in our brain? And can you control that and whatever? Okay. Well, like, it was just such a quick little, like, who gives a shit thing. It didn't matter at all. And it's like, I mean, think of Blade Runner 2049. Was that a good sci-fi movie? Anybody? You know, and like all the themes.
Think about it a lot.
I think about it all the time. Yeah.
Literally me, Ryan Gosling. That's literally me.
That's you.
Literally.
Yeah. And you have that same coat. You walk around in the snow with the street cleaners go by.
I wear it over my scorpion jacket.
All the way. Yeah. Your scorpion bomber underneath it. And then you have it zipped all the way up to your eyes.
Yeah.
Goes
perfect.
Even in this summer, even at 100 degrees, you're wearing it.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's a lot of themes in that movie about like intimacy and like relationships and like what real love is and what that feels like, and, you know, can it be whatever. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just that all these concepts have been done better in other things and have been fleshed out more and are more meaningful. And this is just like, this is just feels so lazy and not worth your time at all. But other than to say that it's kind of good, bad, like you said, like
it's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny. And like everything, the drug names are so ridiculous. And the stuff that happens is so dumb, and none of it really like amounts to much, and it's fast, and it's like, you know, it's kind of good, bad. You're right.
Yes. Here's I guess I'll call this a game. Well, it's just going to be a quick game, but is this a dumber question or answer? Okay. Miles Teller asked this question in the movie. He asks, "Is she dead?"
Oh.
Hemsworth answers. This is his reply. "She's not the best." Is that a dumber question or answer, considering the circumstance? It's so funny. Like, tell her, is she dead?
Is she dead? And then he says she's not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow, that is rough. Is that after she
Yeah.
slits her own throat?
After a little whoopsies at the Darkenflocks.
Yeah. And then he says, "Is she dead?" And he says, "Not the best."
It almost reminded me of like Scary Movie where it's like, how's she doing?
Give it to me
Spend some
straight.
time with the bottom half. Give it to me straight.
Let me explain. Yeah, it's you know, and here's the crazy part, guys. If you weren't listening to the rant directly preceding this, this was much more enjoyable for me to watch than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
So I had much less invested in it, and I don't care. But I mean, what do you want Netflix to do going forward? I mean, what would you do if you were the CEO of Netflix and you had to make original content and you had, you were trying to justify having all this money? Like, I mean, how would you go about it?
So it's a great question. I've thought about it, and I already have the answer. We did not plan this, but
no, we didn't.
What we need to leave behind, and I'm sorry, we sort of lump in something like Spiderhead into this category, but
okay,
high concept stuff we cannot do. We just can't. No high concept stuff at all. The best Netflix stuff is super straightforward. It's a simple elevator pitch. It is just, Ben Affleck and a team of roughnecks steal some money.
I knew
and
that's
things
what you
go
were gonna
bad.
say.
3.
What's it called again? 3.
6 Underground.
6 Underground. No, that was the Ryan movie. Yeah, that's the Ryan Gosling or the Ryan Reynolds one. Oh, what was that? Yeah, the Ben Affleck, the money heist one.
Never missed a heart out.
He's never missed a heart out. We can't pull it. There's a couple more bags. Just a couple more. Yeah, that's perfect. That's what Netflix does well. Like the Extraction, right? That was a Netflix one with Chris Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Just simple stuff. And I have an example of this that's coming up. So have you seen the trailer for Day Shift?
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx?
The vampire. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's perfect, right? Has big people in it, but it's just going to be vampires and gore and killing, and I'm like, I'm in, right?
Yep. They're just like
1,000%.
They're
and
just
I don't
like,
even care if it's bad.
Yeah.
Yep. It's doing one thing, and it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not making Interstellar here. It's just simple. Give me Teller, give me big names, and put them into obvious movie situations, and I think I'll be happy.
Yeah.
That's the way I would go for Netflix.
Because like, if you're thinking about Netflix, I think that's, for the record, I think that's the right way to do it. Because if you're Netflix, like, how do you break up your movies? Everything's in a category. So why not have like action movies and then have Extraction there? Or
Triple Frontier.
I knew it was a 3.
Yeah, you said 3.
Triple Frontier. There you go. Triple Frontier. What is that? It's an action movie. It's action. That's what it is. Like,
yep.
Day Shift. What? Horror, I guess. Like, there you go. Or horror comedy, action horror, whatever you want to do. Like, boom, there. Vampires. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. It's in the vampire. Boom. Easy category. Like, that's it. Like, it's got to fit into a category. It's got to be that thing, and that's it. I think. There you go. Because then you just pepper it in with, if you're Netflix, you get the rights to these classics that people love, that they'll watch. And then you just have your own original stuff that is just those categories. Like, boom, horror, boom, action, boom, romance. Like, yeah, just do period piece, Ryan Reynolds and J-Lo. And he inherits a house and she has to live there, and there you go. And that's it.
No more Ryan Reynolds.
No more. Yeah, please.
Ryan Reynolds is part of the problem. Go watch the Adam Project.
I can't.
I guess final thoughts, Spiderhead. I was a little disappointed. This kind of goes back to just not going for it, kind of mailing it in. But a shot at love with Rictus Erectus. We're not going there, I guess. No. I had a baby brother.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna bring it up, or we're not gonna try it. No love acting scene. That, and like, if we're just looking for eyeballs,
yes,
right?
Sorry. Yeah. No, now I'm with you. I was like, you want to do a Mad Max tie-in? Yeah. Why didn't Rictus Erectus fuck Miles Teller right there? Like, there you go. This would have been the greatest movie of all time if that happened.
Yes. Or Hemsworth and Teller.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought that they had like some tension there, and I was like, let's see it, you know? And there was none of that. Like, you can't tell me that every single, eyeball in America wouldn't tune in for Spiderhead if there was even like a hint of, love scene between Hemsworth and Teller.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it works
Everyone's
on a couple different
in.
Works on a couple different levels. Like, Hemsworth is using the drug on Miles Teller just to manipulate and use him. And like, there you go. That's a way creepier dude.
But then they turn it off,
fall in love. Yeah.
And they're like, no love acting tonight.
All Nash. This is just
you
us.
And me.
Yeah. Yeah, would have been better.
I'm not good at sex the old way.
Yeah.
Did you catch any Crimes of the Future? Yeah, it's something else. Maybe for next time. But that's the pod, and that's
the pod. That's what you guys have been missing out on it. So there's a little double feature for you. And we can't
watch either.
Yeah, don't watch either of them. That's the L Squared Classic. Hey, this is our sixth year, our 6th year anniversary.
Yep.
Probably should have opened with that, but it's been a long time.
With us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You're still with us, and we haven't done much, but you're still here. So I guess maybe next time we'll recommend movies that we actually like, but they're not as fun.
No,
we like to suffer so you don't have to.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's just end it there.
Stay off the Dark and Flocks.